Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us here at the Unit8 Talks. My name is Kamil Zalewski. I'm Unit8 Head of AI Practice Lead and also the Head of the Growth of the company. Today, we're going to be speaking about selecting a successful AI use case, especially if it's a first project for you. It's going to be a critical thing to select the project in the right way. If you haven't heard about Unit8 Talks, we're delivering this series of webinars on data and AI that focus on two tracks, on the technical track and the more business-related track. This particular webinar is part of the business track. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to Unit8, just a very quick forward. Unit8 is a Swiss data science AI solution provider, which intends to actually help the companies bridge the gap between the data and the business value coming out of the data. And we've been focusing predominantly on the non-digital native industries, as we believe that there's a massive potential, and those are the companies which are driving the GDP growth here in Europe. And how are we doing that? How are we delivering value to our customers? We're doing that with our digital native team coming from a lot of the Silicon Valley organizations. So all of us have decided to actually step out of some of the comfortable roles that we had in the big established enterprise world to actually form a new company called Unit8 in order to support the organizations on their journey to become more AI driven and data driven. Jumping straight to the topic of today, selecting a successful AI use case. So I'll be speaking about a few areas today. First of all, I wanted to give you some context around AI in the business domain, and to show you how profound the impact of AI is going to be in the next decade. After that, I'll be showing you some of the methodologies that we've been using, working with our customers to help them select the right AI projects. We're going to also share with you some of the tools that we're using, so that later on you can leverage them for your own work. And I'm going to conclude with key takeaways and some of the recommendations that we have should you want to invest the time in AI project. This session is for you, therefore please use the Q&A panel to ask the questions. I'll try to address them at the end of the webinar. So starting with the context, AI in the business context. Why is everybody talking about AI? Why has it been a growing topic over the last few years? Well, first of all, from the business impact perspective, we do believe that AI will have a profound impact on the industry and will actually force a lot of the companies to reinvent themselves and transform the way they deliver value for their customers. So, depending on the different studies by McKinsey and PwC, the estimated business impact of AI by 2020 equals to about 13 to 15 trillion dollars of the GDP growth. A big portion of that, around 2.5 trillion, is actually accounted here in Europe. And as you can imagine, we're already surrounded by AI applications, right? I mean, some of us are using the voice recognition systems. A lot of us are using Netflix with the recommender systems. So we're already living in the world where we're being surrounded by AI. At the same time, a big portion of the more traditional companies and more traditional industries have not yet adopted AI. So think about agriculture, think about automotive, think about manufacturing or chemical. So those more traditional industries, which are giving millions of jobs here in Europe, which might not have yet benefited from the AI revolution. And why is that? And we believe that one of the primary reasons is that there's still quite a lot of hype around AI, and a lot of the debate around, is actually AI bringing the business benefits to the companies who are investing in it. That's why we actually do want to help our customers in selecting the right projects to start with, as we profoundly believe that it creates a massive business opportunity for the decision makers. On the right-hand side, you have a little bit of the world map when it comes to the projected impact of AI. And as you can see, it's substantial. So this particular technical trend is definitely not to be neglected, as it's going to change the way companies operate in the next decade. So here's on the business impact, but what happened from the technical perspective that actually allowed AI to grow so massively in the last years? And if I were to answer the question, why now? Why AI now? I think it's because of a few reasons. First of all, we as a human society are producing a tremendous and growing amount of data. Think about wearables. Think about all of our online activities. Think about all the IoT devices that we connect to the internet. Think about the smart factories. Think about autonomous cars, right? The amount of the data is just growing in an exponential manner. And at the same time, the compute power that's needed to actually train the AI models is also going up, right? I mean, the capabilities are growing. We have the cloud providers who are helping us to scale our compute powers. And also there have been a few technical advancements in the last years, like invention of the deep learning and a few others that are actually even further increasing the capabilities of AI. So while we have 3 ups, we actually also have 1 down, which is the storage price, right? Before, it was actually quite hard and quite expensive to store a lot of the data. Right now, the storage prices are dramatically went down over the years. And given the fact that the data is the fuel for the AI, which is the engine, right? Those 4 factors are actually, from the technical perspective, enabling AI to be even more successful, and they are driving the adoption of AI in the industry. So that's a little bit of the context. But now let's jump to the essence of today's webinar. Let's imagine that you're about to start your AI journey, and that your organization might not have yet an experience with AI. How do you actually get to select the right project to get you started on the right track? So we have already established that the business incentive to invest in AI is there, and that the technical capabilities have actually developed quite nicely as well. So that creates a good environment to start an AI project. What we're always recommending to our customers is that you should dream big, but at the same time, you should start small. What I mean by that is the AI projects do tend to be quite difficult to implement, especially if you're doing them for the first time. So we'd very strongly suggest that if you're looking to start an AI project, start with a proof of concept or a pilot, in order to actually gain experience, in order to build the credibility and the momentum with your stakeholders, in order to be able to actually measure the results and show the impact that you're driving with those projects. And once you run a few of the pilots, a few of the proof of concepts, that builds the foundation for more of a company-wide AI adoption strategy that can get you started for the long years. So that's a little bit of a forward with regards to the fact that piloting first is definitely a good idea in the AI space. And if I am to tell you what's a successful AI project, I do want to upfront maybe describe it somewhat, so that you get to understand how do we perceive the successful AI projects. And for us, again, working with the customers who are looking for the return on the investments on the project that they conduct, we're definitely looking at the projects in the way that they need to deliver the business value to our customers, right? So that they have positive ROI, they solve some real problems, and they are again building a foundation for a company-wide AI program or AI practice. And second of all, you might have heard that a very big portion of the AI projects fail. And there are different numbers, let's say up to even 80% of the AI projects not being successful. So for us, a successful project in the area of AI is a project that actually gets implemented. So it doesn't get stuck in the proof of concept and the pilot phase, but you actually do manage to measure the results, show the impact, and convince your stakeholders that it's the right project to actually embed in your workflows, to implement it fully, move beyond POC and the minimum valuable product. And you might be also asking yourself, hey, is AI project different from any other innovative projects that we're running in the company? And of course, there's a lot of the resemblance, and of course, you should follow the standard methodologies that you're using when delivering on those type of projects. But there's a couple of things that I do want to stress out that do make a difference between AI and other types of the innovative type of the projects. And as I mentioned, the data is the fuel that runs the AI engine. And that's why you need to be quite careful with the data when running the AI projects, right? So you need to be able to verify if you have the right data, if the quality of the data is correct. Are the signals in the data allowing you to develop an AI solution? And at the same time, you'll see that working with AI requires loads of iterations to actually get to the expected results. So you'll need to iterate in an agile way even more than with the standard projects. You'll need to bounce the results of the subject matter experts to ensure that actually you're moving in the right direction. So those are not gigantic changes, but definitely differences, but definitely some of they need to be looked at when thinking about starting an AI project. And some of you that might be interested in AI probably do follow people like Andrew, the founder of the Deep Learning AI Institute and the I guess the one of the godfathers of the modern AI. And I've recently watched one of his talks when he was describing the characteristics of a successful AI project. And I think the simplicity of what I'm going to show you is actually quite vital. So a successful AI project needs to do two things at the same time. It needs to be feasible from the AI perspective. So basically, it needs to live at the intersection of what can AI deliver from the technical perspective, and it needs to drive value, right? It needs to deliver on the business impact. So if those two kind of conditions are met, you're already setting yourself up for a success moving on. And I do recommend to follow Andrew on some of his social media. And when we as Unit8 start to collaborate with any of our customers, quite often we are being invited to help them select the right AI project, right? To invest the resources in the projects that have the most chances to succeed. And here's over the last years, we've developed a simple methodology that actually helps us to narrow down the ideas from the initial ideation all the way to the things that we want to develop. So in here, you see my beautiful picture of a funnel that tries to show you the methodology. So when you're thinking about starting and conducting an AI project, you usually start with an ideation phase, right? And I'll describe it a little bit more on the next slides. But the basic idea is that, I mean, you do know what are the business drivers of your company. You do know what are the current pain points, right? So think and brainstorm what are the solutions that can actually help you deliver more value or solve the business problems. And some basic tools and techniques that we're using in here are just the famous brainstorming type of the exercises. Usually we get anywhere between 10, maybe even 20 different ideas of the AI projects. Later on, right, it's time to verify. It's time to actually limit the number of ideas. So what we usually do is that we actually do the business impact assessment, right? Going back to those two circles that I've shown you, I mean, is the project, is the idea actually delivering on the business impact? So in here, there are some tools that we developed, I'll show them to you as well, that are helping us to reduce that initial number of ideas to some of the ideas that are already vetted that can deliver the business impact. And then, of course, we need to make sure that the solutioning is feasible. That's why we're running the technical assessment to actually further limit the amount of the ideas to the ones that are not only business impact delivering, but they are also technically feasible. And by the end of that funnel, we usually end up with one or two suggestions, let's say for a proof of concept or of a pilot, where for which we usually develop the business cases for our customers to run a successful pilot. So here's our methodology in a nutshell. It's a methodology. It's not the methodology, meaning I've seen other ones that I've seen on the market, but this one comes from our experience of having delivered over 40 AI machine learning projects on the European market. And again, I think we are running a better success rate of delivering on the AI projects than the standard market numbers that you can see. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at some of those stages. So jumping to the ideation. So if you think about the ideation stage, right? Again, think about the project that you have. Think about the business drivers and the business value that you can deliver. So the focus of this stage is basically to develop an initial list of somewhat feasible and valuable projects to investigate. And again, we're using usually a brainstorming sessions as a tool to actually ask the questions to our stakeholders, like, what are your current pain points? Where's the problem, right? And then try to understand what's driving the value in your organization? How can we actually help you deliver more value, either by enabling some new product, maybe some new AI-driven service. And some of our customers, of course, are also looking to reduce the cost. So they'll be asking us, hey, how can we automate, right? How can we automate our sales forecasting, as an example, right? So those are the type of the topics and the questions that you want to ask yourself at the ideation stage in order to get to the list of the potential AI projects that you want to further verify, right? So again, a relatively easy step. Start with the problem or with the business value that you want to create, and list some of the projects, and maybe not some of the projects, but some of the ideas that you want to develop further. And some of the problem statements that we've been working on with some of the customers that we have are as follows, and maybe they can give you some, I guess, real life examples of how those sessions actually come to fruition. So we've been partnering with one of the global chemical producers, and one of the issues that they had was in the manufacturing space. They were operating a fully automated factory, and they started to observe the signals of the production slowing down. And again, so you clearly see here a problem statement, right? So what we've done is that we've actually started to investigate, and we've took that idea throughout the funnel meaning can machine learning, can AI actually help us detect what are those manufacturing issues that are slowing the production down. So we went through the next stages of the funnel, and we helped the customer actually model the whole, model the entire production line in order to find those hard to detect issues. Another type of the problem statement is that we've been working with or partnering with one of our international customers that had the issues with the inaccurate sales forecasting. Right? It has been done in a manual way. It has been prone to human errors, and again, it didn't give them the accuracy that they needed in order to plan their business properly. So again, you take that type of problem statement, and you see already in here that this task was more about automation as well, and we further developed it through the funnel of the methodology that you see on the right-hand side. Another idea or another problem statement that we've seen was around, again, the manufacturing space, where we've seen that one of our pharma partners actually has started to have the problem that they were getting more demand from their customers than the supply could produce, meaning they were getting more requests that they could produce of the goods. And again, we came up with that problem statement, and we started to go through our methodology to see, hey, can we actually find one or two ideas in the area of machine learning to help actually see if we can increase the productivity of that particular production line. Last but not least, an example of the problem statement is that, again, we've been working this time in a computer vision space to actually help understand, but also help detect the defects of the produced goods. So if you're already starting with something quite concrete, meaning something that can deliver the value for the customer, there's already higher, that already increases the chances that your project is going to be successful. And as an organization, we've been also working under some small principles, like, again, start with the problem, but then aim for the impact as well, right? I mean, the problem needs to actually, if you solve the problem, there needs to be the business impact that the project drives, because from there you can actually set the goals from the project in the smart way. You probably are aware of the methodology. So once you already have the several ideas how you can actually run, what type of the projects you may run, again, you may want to verify them from the business impact perspective. So again, this is to trim the list of the initial ideas to only leave those that have the high chances to deliver on the return on the investment. And in here, the different tools that we're using in here is the verification of the business drivers. It's about the impact to effort assessment, and overall the economic evaluation of the project. And I'll tell you more in a second how we do that. And again, at the end of this phase, the expectation is that we have not only the initial list of the ideas, but we only focus on the ideas that actually have that have the high chances of deliver on the ROI and the business value. Okay, so jumping maybe to some of the tools. As part of that verification, right, we're doing a few things related to understanding really what drives the particular problems and that our customers are having. You've already seen in the ideation stage that there were different types of the business drivers that the companies are pursuing, and in essence, you've been usually seeing those type of business drivers. First of all, automating lowering the costs by, for example, automating some of the tasks, or trying to actually increase the revenue, right? Aiming for the project to increase the revenue of the company, or avoiding some particular risk, staying compliant. That's also very important aspect of the AI projects, especially in the banking, financial services, insurance. And we've also seen the projects where we've been actually asked to help launch a new product or a new service where AI is actually the core differentiator of that particular project. And once we know the business drivers, we very often go into the, I would say, more standard project economics and ROI verification, right? So we're trying to understand what's the expected effort, what's the expected impact as well, so that gives us, let's say, the foundation for the business assessment of the project. And the simple techniques that we've been using in here is also the impact effort assessment, right? Where we're plotting how much can we gain of the business impact and what's the effort in terms of the team, in terms of the time, in terms of the resources that we need to invest. And again, I mean, of course, the best projects are the quick wins, which are able to quickly prove the value, which are able to actually move on relatively quickly from the initial idea to the development. Um, Again, not a rocket science, but actually plotting the different ideas on that type of small 2x2 matrix allows us to focus only on those projects that are relatively easy to implement and that are bringing the highest possible impact. So think about it as a trade-off between the two. So by now, we already trimmed the list of the potential AI projects into, I would say, some smaller number. So now it's time to actually make sure as well that from the technical perspective, the AI can actually deliver on the promise. So the focus of this particular technical assessment phase is basically to understand can AI do it, right? Can AI deliver on the project? And in here, we're of course using some tools like the technical verification, and we're also building something that we call the AI business canvas. It's basically a foundation for the future business case that usually needs to be created in order to pilot a particular project. And by the end of this particular step, we're usually seeing that the list goes down to really 2-3 ideas for the projects that have been vetted from the technical perspective and that have been vetted from the business perspective as well. So that verification. So how do we actually do it? So we're usually trying to basically understand what is the data that we actually need to solve the problem. Do we actually have that data? Do we have the skills and the capacity in-house? Can AI meet the desired performance, right? Because, for example, if you, let's say, trying to design an automated AI-driven defect detection system of your production line, then hey, probably you're looking at to have an automated, relatively high accuracy rate. I don't know, let's say 99%. So if your system is not able to actually live up to those standards, that hey, better to drop that idea up front. And some of the different techniques that we're using in here, apart from those asking those questions that I've mentioned to you, are around something that we call the AI project business canvas. I'm guessing you might be familiar with the generic business canvas idea. The AI business canvas is a little bit different, although not significantly different, but it allows to describe the problem and show that you've done the due diligence to assess it properly. And I'll very quickly go through the canvas so that you can have the understanding of how it operates. So again, we usually start with the business problem, trying to answer the questions: what is it that we're solving for? We're usually making some hypothesis of, if we solve that particular problem, what does it mean from the business impact perspective? Once we have that, can actually data help us prove that hypothesis, right? Can we use the data to prove that we can deliver on X% of the productivity gain, let's say? And if so, right, what's the solution? Is it some machine learning model? Is it a deep learning model? Is it a computer vision type of the project? again, to try to understand at the high level what would need to be done. And as mentioned throughout this webinar, the data is the fuel, right? So you need to make sure that you have the right data, that it's actually available and allows you to build the solution that you have. On top of that, well, think from the talent perspective, right? Do you have the right talent in place? Do you have the right subject matter experts in place so that you can form the team to deliver on the project? And again, it's very important, especially if you're starting your AI journey, to make sure that you know how to define the success criteria for the project and have the means to actually measure those criteria over the duration of the project. It's better to know the cost up front, although it's not always easy to estimate in the area of AI. And of course, as with any of the projects, you do need to understand what's the timeline that you're driving with. So again, building that AI business canvas sparks quite a lot of discussions about the potential projects. Again, helps us verify if some of the assumptions that we're making are right, and later on, it becomes the foundation for the business cases that usually are needed in order to build the full-blown proposal for an AI project. And the last step is that by now you probably are operating at one or two ideas that right now are becoming the pilot projects or the proof of concepts. So in here, I mean, there's no rocket science in here. There's, I would say, a standard cycle of the development of the AI project begins, the delivery side, with highly recommending the agile methodology in order to deliver on those projects. Because again, if you're able to deliver the project in the way that it delivers on the business impact, it will actually help you later on to move this particular pilot into a MVP and into the full implementation and embedding in the workflow. Hence, kind of you'll be able to claim the success. And quite often, you will ask yourself a question, right? If you, especially at the early stages of your AI practice or AI program, I mean, what's the right way for me to actually start my AI journey? Is it to buy some of the off-the-shelf solutions? Is it to build it on my own, or is it to partner with some of the external companies who can help me augment my capabilities, but who can also deliver on some of those projects quicker? So usually a big portion as well is to ask yourself some of the questions, right? Can you actually buy an off-the-shelf solution? Is it actually matching your needs, or does it need some significant customization, right? If you can buy it, perfect. But if you actually require maybe some massive customization, maybe buying off the shelf is not the best idea. At the same time, whether you prefer to build in-house or to partner with the external service providers, well, ask yourself some questions. Do you have the expertise and talent in-house? Do you have actually the right experience and the ability to deliver? What's the time frame of the project, right? How quickly do you need to make it work? And also, quite important is also, does the project require a lot of the domain expertise, right? Because quite often you'll see that the two words need to combine in order for the AI projects to be successful. The world of the data and the AI models, but also the world of the subject matter expertise and domain knowledge, right? Think about medicine, think about chemical space, where those two areas need to come together in order to form a successful project. So I'm hoping that you managed to take some good takeaways from the methodology that I've tried to explain. I'll try to summarize, but also give you some hints on how to get yourself started. And here's a couple of our lessons learned throughout having delivered over 40 AI and machine learning projects. First one is look for the quick wins. I know it can It can sound trivial, but again, the quick wins and picking the projects that can actually that have the high chances of success is the smart thing to do, as it helps you convince your customers, your stakeholders, to invest further in the AI practice. Another one is something that I've mentioned already. Make sure that the data experts actually work hand in hand with the domain experts, because that will help you deliver on the best impact. Use the pilots. It's a very important stage of the development of the AI solutions and AI products. Again, allows you to actually clearly show the benefits of the AI solutions that you're planning to build. Another one is be pragmatic. It's much better to actually have a model being able to be deployed rather than a perfect model that you won't be able to deploy. So the pragmatism is quite important in here as well. And again, focus on the projects that can truly deliver on the business value and solve real problems, because again, this will help you have much higher chances to be successful, as it will also help you convince the right stakeholders that AI is the area to invest in. Last but not least, you'll see that the communication and change management is actually fundamental for the success of the AI projects. You need to ensure that again, AI experts are able to communicate the progress with the business stakeholders using the right language. We quite often call those type of profiles in our company as translators, who can, again, talk about AI in the business language. But also, AI brings quite a lot of change. So being able to manage that change, and quite often also, I guess, cut through the resistance, that's also one of the key factors for being successful. And in order to summarize our methodology of selecting the right project, right? If you think about it, AI represents a significant business potential. In order to get started, think in the proof of concept pilot way, as it will help you gain traction and build momentum. At the same time, when you're picking the right project to implement, think from the business impact and technical feasibility together. I've shown you the methodology that we're using at Unit8, but there's more. There's probably more existing. So the right tools and the right methodologies already exist. Make sure that you leverage them. Take a look at some of the lessons learned and best practices developed by others throughout when you're doing your selection process. Then again, depending on your situation, if you have the in-house team and the capabilities, think how is it that you want to build your AI practice, right? Do you want to build, do you want to buy, or do you want to partner with others in order to scale your AI ambitions? Last but not least, a successful pilot or 2 or 3 pilots can lead to creating a foundation for a company-wide AI adoption, which is something that I guess will deliver on the longer-term business impact. And if you're thinking from the beyond pilots, and again, establishing a long-term AI practice or AI program, here's a couple of the big things that you need to keep in mind when you try to structure your thinking. First of all, we're still seeing lots of the organizational silos and the data sitting in multiple sources, right? So if you really are aiming at the company-wide AI program, you'll need to think about how to break those silos and have the data come together. At the same time, the mindset of some of the business stakeholders will need to change, right? Data will become a business asset. So you need to actually start treating data as a business asset as well. At the same time, as I mentioned, there's a lot of the misjudgment and there's a lot of the hype around AI. So you need to carefully manage the expectations of what is it that AI can deliver on, and what is it that AI cannot deliver on. At the same time, there's a couple of decisions ahead of you. If you want to establish the AI program, you might want to think about, how do I actually develop my capabilities in-house, or how do I partner with the others to be successful? And again, a lot of you might be already using the cloud. It makes the life of the data scientists and AI experts much easier if you're already using the cloud infrastructure. That's it from my side today. I'm hoping that this has been useful, and that you're going to leverage some of the lessons learned and the methodology that we've used. I'm going to open up the Q&A panel to see what are the types of the questions that that I have. Okay. So here's one. The question is the methodology that I've shown in here applicable to any particular industry, or is it across the different industries? Yeah, my take is that the methodology is relevant to multiple industries. Yet, of course, some customization per the different domain might be needed. And again, the bringing in the domain expertise and domain knowledge when you're thinking about the structuring, selecting your AI project is actually going to be quite important. And another one is around the success rate of the AI projects. So the question is that the 80% of the AI projects fail. Why is that? Okay, so I'm guessing that's the number that someone has found on the internet in terms of the success rate of the AI projects. And you're right. I mean, not selecting the right project can turn into the project not being successful. So if I were to think why the AI projects fail, there's a couple of things that come to my mind. First of all, I've already told you about the data, ensuring that you have the right data, and that the data is able to actually help you solve the particular problems. Sometimes you actually fail at the very beginning by focusing not on the right projects, meaning the projects that might be very difficult to implement from the technical perspective, or might not bring the business value that you want. It might be as well that you're not bringing the right experts into the project, like the combination of the AI experts and the domain experts that I've told you about. So there's multiple reasons why the AI projects can fail. Another one that comes to my mind is around the black box, meaning that people do not really understand what's going on in the AI model, so they actually do not trust the outcomes as much as they should. And I guess take a look at some of those lessons learned and examples, right? The communication and the change management itself might be also one of the key reasons why the AI projects can fail. I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A panel. If you're watching the recording of this session, please feel free to email us if you had any further follow-up questions. If anyone wanted to read more about let's say selecting their AI project, there's a lot of good resources that I've used as well to prepare this session. So you'll have it in the slides in the recording. And this will conclude actually the first season of Unit8 Talks. We'll resume in the autumn timeframe. In the meantime, feel free to follow us on our social media. We're very much committed to sharing our experiences and sharing our knowledge to actually bridge the gap of the AI knowledge in the industry. With that, thank you for your time. All the best, and looking forward to discussing further.